Boom, ba da da da. Hey everyone, yeah, yeah, yeah. About to go live. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm gonna put that right there. Yeah, about to go live on Facebook with an Ask Me Anything segment. About to go live on Facebook. I'm gonna do a Ask Me Anything segment. Yeah, about to go live on Facebook. Ask me anything. Bum, bum, bum. About to go live on Facebook. And I'm doing an Ask Me Anything About Improv. Hey everybody, Ask Me Anything About Improv. Volume number 4. Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Here we are. Very excited to be back with you right here. And we've got some questions, and feel free as you're watching this to ask questions as well in the chat. But let me pull up some of the questions we've got so far about Ask Me Anything About Improv. And this is episode 4. All right, some great questions. Sid asks, when you were in the initial stages of doing improv, which improv skill set were you naturally strong in? Example, listening, object work, heightening, and which were the ones you had to put significant effort into? Oh, great. Thanks for that question. I think listening for me was huge, and I was pretty strong in it from the beginning. One of the best compliments I ever got was somebody who's an influence on my career. Her name is Joni Clunan, and she once told me, "Man, you're the best listener I know." And I thought that was the huge compliment. She also, here's an interesting story. Joni Clunan was part of a group called Comedy Sports, and they do short form improvisational games, and they're franchised all throughout the world. I went to an audition for Comedy Sports back in October of 1993, and there are people who audit the audition and make these decision processes. Yeah. And I think there were like 4. She was the only one of the 4 who said, let's give that guy a call back. She was the only one who saw something in me to say, let's call him back. And then I got called back, and I had a great callback, and the rest is history. But Joni Clunan is one of those people that, without her support, I would not be doing what I'm doing for sure. Or at least I don't think I would be doing it. I might have tried something different. So listening to me was huge. Also with Comedy Sports, I don't want to brag, but one year I got the Best Mime and Sound Effects Award at the banquet, which I was pretty proud of. But object work is definitely something I have to work on, and I still have to continue to work on because it's not something we naturally do. So object work for sure is something I had to work on. I think I was always strong at support. I was always strong at taking somebody's idea and going with it. I it's a a blessing, I guess, and a curse that if you do a bit, I will continue to do that. I won't give up on the bit. I will keep supporting that. I will do that. My friend Jeff was in a class. Interesting. He was in a class I taught at Second City. It was my first class I taught at Second City. But years before, he and I were in an improv group at IO in Chicago back in the early 90s. And then he decided to take improv like 2010, I believe, and he went to Second City and he was in my class, and I asked people what their, if they had preferred nicknames or what they wanted to be called, and he jokingly said Hector, and now to this day, over 10 years later, I still call him Hector. So I will commit to a bit very hard. I will support and I will go with it, even no matter what. So I think I'm really good at heightening and exploring. I think a couple things I've had to really work at myself, I mean, for years, was letting go of control, letting go of trying to steer where the scene was going to go, letting go of. I think I was pretty good at high status for several reasons. I think one is because I'm tall. I get put in a lot of high status positions. Also, it was a matter of control for me. So if it was a scene about a classroom, I would be the teacher because I can control it. So I had to let go of that feeling of safety and control. That was a huge thing that I struggled at. I think I'm Also, you have to continue to work on like stage picture and as far as like how you move on a stage because some of us just didn't have that much experience with it. So that's something I had to work on. Projection is something I had to work on. I had to work on something huge I had to work on was after a bad show or what I thought was a bad show is when people come up and say, "Hey, great show." I had to work on saying, "Oh, thanks a lot," versus apologizing. For the first, I don't know, year or so when people would after the show say hi like friends of mine I would say, "Oh, I'm sorry," like I would apologize for the show even though it they enjoyed it and my apology or saying like, "Oh, that was you should have seen last week's show," that ruined their experience. They were there for that show and I forgot. People are blown away that we're up there without any sort of script doing this completely on the spot. So don't underestimate that part of it. But yeah, those are some of the skills that I felt I was good at, and some of them I needed to work on for sure. But you can always work on object work. I think another thing I could work on is, and I worked on, was making the scene not about a thing, but about the relationship, which I think I was good at early on, and then I got away from. So I think also during your journey, there are things you're going to be like, "I got this. I feel really comfortable at this," and then there are other times in your journey you don't feel as comfortable with it. The biggest thing that I had to, work on was just being okay with my own moves and being okay with what I do and say what I do is good enough and not comparing myself to other people, not striving to be something different than what I am. I have a certain style and I embrace that style now, but it took me a long time to get there. So great. Thanks, Sid, for that question. That's awesome. I also think I was really good at naturally heightening and taking to a place of absurdity. I was very sometimes it was hard for me to play like myself, but now the more I've got experience, the more I like playing versions of me. Michael, do you ever look back on your past teaching and based on what you've learned since feel you owed your students more? Oh man, I used to. I can't now. I remember talking to, oh, who was I talking to? I might have been talking to Dave Rosowski, maybe. And, your students, you teach students, and when I was at Second City and other places, they would do student shows. And I used to get so nervous for their shows, and I would want it to go so well. And I think Gelman was the one who said, the student's journey is like this. And you're this small part of that journey. So I had to stop thinking I could do more, and just be appreciative of what I've done. Now, one thing that maybe you can take away as a teacher is like, don't try to teach something you don't know. Or if you try and you fail, be okay admitting that, like I have no problem now saying like, well, I didn't explain that well, or, oh, that was not the exercise I wanted. So don't be afraid to say that. Also, like less is more. So I think sometimes based on my past teaching, maybe I talked too much and I didn't get people up playing as much. And also sometimes I look back and say like, did I make it a safe space for my students? Did I protect them? Did I call things out that were inappropriate? Did I call things out that put people in a dangerous situation emotionally? Is that the case? So yeah, I think you look back on it. I think the hard thing to do is not spiral down and think like, oh, I could have done this better and that better. I think definitely when it happens, make a note of it, and then the next time it comes up, realize, oh, there's a chance for me to change. I think I continue to evolve as a teacher, and what I'm teaching now is different than what I was teaching before. So it's a matter of, did my students leave better versions of themselves than when they came in? And if that's the case, then I think I did my job. Sid also asked, at what stage did you realize that improv could be my professional career choice? Well, I remember I asked Fran Adams, who was a teacher of mine at Second City, and this was maybe a year or two into my improv journey, maybe a year after my first class. I said, can you make a living doing this? And she said, well, I am. And I thought, oh, great. But I never really pursued it as a career because there were very few opportunities for straight up improv. There weren't, Second City, you got paid, but you did sketch mostly. You did some improv to create material and some during the show, but like mostly it was sketch. So to be able to do improv as a career there was not a possibility at that time. I remember I got hired by Comedy Sports in October of 1993, and I think my first show I got $4 or $6, and I thought this was it. I made it. Anything I did during the day to make a living was just so I could perform at night, and I was not making any money. So when people, you hear athletes say I would do it for free, improvisers really say that and mean that. So I think right now it is a viable career choice if you talk about using improv to facilitate, corporate workshops or teaching, or with Patreon you can get people to subscribe and help you create content that way. But back in the day it was a dead end job. There was no professional career with improv, and I think that was part of the attraction. It's like, oh man, I don't have to do anything. This is not going anywhere. Now, if that was the case, I honestly don't know if I would get into it if it was like, okay, this is going to lead me to a career. I don't know. I don't know. But back then, yeah. So I think maybe like, it only became really viable for me personally, maybe about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. But also with that, it's like I facilitate corporate learning sessions, which is using improv technology, or I'm sorry, improv philosophies and skills. But that's one way to make it a career choice. I guess if you like decided to write books and you really went at it hardcore, you could make it a career choice for sure. It's also what's important to you. For me, the money isn't the important factor for me. I just want to have enough money to get by. I don't need anything really fancy. So if you are looking to have more stuff, then an improv career might not be for you, but who knows? I mean, anything can happen. Anshu, these are great questions. Thanks, everyone. Are good improvisers inherently intelligent and smart? I mean, I think so. I don't think I've met I haven't met a dumb improviser. I think they are very intelligent. I think they are very smart in their own way. And intelligence is different for each person. I'm not talking about like the number of references you have, although, as improvisers, we have to know a little bit about a whole lot of stuff. Second City became a theater that was based in political, and satirical work because their suggestions from their audience were political. It was during the 50s, the Compass Players down at the University of Chicago. And before that, we're in St. Louis. A lot of people don't know that they originated in St. Louis, then came up to the University of Chicago. They would get suggestions like Eisenhower and the war, and that's why the material became political. So it was based on the audience and their suggestions. So I think you have to have a reference to know a little bit about a whole bunch of stuff. Like I have to know just enough about Harry Potter or Game of Thrones or anything that's, in the news topically, anything topical in the news, because it's probably going to come up as a suggestion. So I want to make sure that I'm at least aware of the genre or the style of it. I was taught when I was early on, read the newspaper, read the op-ed pages until you get your own opinion. But always be reading, always be learning. I also got to perform with some amazingly smart people who was like, oh man, that last show they talked about this, the 14th Amendment. I got to go read up about that. Or they referenced Herbert Hoover, and it's like, okay, I should know a little bit about that. So it was more an education, partly because I didn't want to be left behind, and partly also because I wanted to, and I always want to continue to learn. But it was, for me, this is a place of like really, and in the best way, intelligent weirdos and the island of misfit toys who come together, and we're all smart and we all have our own things that we can bring to the stage. I haven't met any improviser or student who's not intelligent. So yeah, thanks for that. I think good improvisers are also very curious. They're very much interested in people. They love people watching. They love studying people. I think to me that makes really good improvisers. Great, thanks for that. Jorge of the Mountains, what's the most important thing you learned on your own from doing improv that wasn't taught in any class you attended before? Oh, man. Wow, what's the most... I don't know. I have a hard time. That's a great question because I feel like nothing is, for me, is like an original thought of like, oh, hey, I thought about this. I feel like I'm always influenced by other people, especially in like classes and shows. What's the most important thing you learned on your own? I think, I was very blessed to have so many great teachers and fellow students and fellow performers that taught me a bunch in improv and how to apply that to life. So I was very fortunate in that regard, and I started changing my mindset there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like, ooh, how far can we take this idea? Like, really, how far can we take it? What's the ceiling? Let's go through that ceiling. Let's take it past what's normal. I don't know. That's probably the closest thing. But let me think about it more, and if I come up with another answer, I'll share it. But that's a great question. Also, at this point as well, my whole life is wonderfully improv centric, and so it's hard to separate what came from improv and what didn't. But yeah, interesting. That's a great question. I'll think about it. If you have answers, please put them in the chat, y'all who are watching. I think that's a great question. Christina, hi Christina. What are the two, three improv games you believe that contain, teach, explore the true principles of improv? Ooh, oh, well, one is conducted story. I think I love conducted story. I think it just showcases letting go of control, the group working together. That's one of my all-time favorites. I could play conducted story forever, where there's a person who's conducting and they're pointing at you, and when they point, you talk, and they move their hand away, you stop talking, and then somebody else finishes your sentence or word or thought. I think that's brilliant. I think freeze tag is the ultimate improv game, and if you can play freeze tag, you can do any type of improv whatsoever. I think freeze tag to me also exemplifies exactly what improv is all about. I think blind line is where people leave the room, you write down sentences, and then they come back in and they don't know what they say, but in a scene you take it out and you read it and justify it. I think that is a great principle of improv because you're incorporating constant audience suggestions with justifying. I think there's any gibberish game really, like there's a game Five Things where you have somebody who leaves the room. They're called a blind guesser. You write down five or three active activities like skiing, and then you take parts of that away and insert strange things. So it's like you're not skiing down a mountain, you're skiing down what food? It's like spaghetti. So you get that all set up. The person comes back in the room, and then through mime and gibberish, no English, no intelligible language, you have to give them clues, and they have to then guess it in English. And I think it's also a true sign of improv because it takes language barriers out of it. It focuses on, a goal. We have a common shared goal right here. We're working towards something. So I think those teach like true principles of improv right there, and you have to say yes to it. That's why I love short form too. It's like you don't have time to say no. It's like somebody says, here's what we're doing. The audience, the improvisers all know that's what you're doing, and then the audience watches you try to attain that goal and watch you struggle. A game like Forward Reverse, I think, is great too because it's, a scene is happening, and at any point there's a caller who says reverse, and they have to reverse the action, not the words, but they reverse the action of the scene, and then they can call forward. And the audience is watching you try to get this, but also struggle to get it. So I think those are great examples. So great. Thanks for that question, Christina. I hope you're doing well. Anshu, since you are doing so many 10 minutes daily, do you ever fear a repeat or an exhaustion of content that some references or incidents or characters or stories might get repeated by you while you are playing scenes? No, to be honest, I don't because there are two of us and there are so many stories to tell and there are so many situations to explore, plus the spontaneity of the suggestion. I don't think so. I do not fear an exhaustion of content. I couldn't do a scene again right now if I tried. If there was a scene where it's like, oh, you're going to replay that scene you did with, Anshu, or the scene you did with Chris Alvarado, I couldn't even do it if I tried. So I'm not fear. I think it'd be really fun to try to repeat the scene exactly. I think that would be great. So I'm not afraid of that. There's two of us, and plus the combination of whatever the suggestion is, and then what our take on it is. You and I could do a scene about bananas that would be different than a scene I did with David Escobedo or with Ari. We could do maybe, oh, hey, Anshu, how about that? Well, maybe I'll do a run of 10 minutes with where it's the same suggestion. Yeah. If you give a thumbs up in the chat if you want to see that, where we do like 10 in a row of like the exact same suggestion and see what happens with these people that I'm performing with. Yeah, I don't think so. I welcome it. I think that's another fun challenge is like, what different thing can you do about the suggestion? The suggestion is a jumping off point. It's not what your scene is about. Uh, Thera, how do I make my partner look good supported? I think listening. Thanks for that question. I think it's listening. Listen to them. And to me, it's like just agree. You want to support them, you got to say yes. And then you add. The important element of yes and is not the yes, it's the and. When you say and, the yes is implied. So a lot of times people just say, they might say yeah, or they might say yes, but they aren't adding anything to it. So it might just, stagnate, but add the and to it. So how do I make them look good? Or so where I also think like, man, I'm so excited to play with this person. This person is a genius. This person is intelligent. I'm going to make them look good. My focus is what can I do to support them? And so saying yes to their idea is the best way to support them and to make them look good. If they look good, you look twice as good, or just make them look good without even worrying if you're going to look twice as good. What everyday habits, Anisha, what everyday habits do you practice to make you hone your craft? What are the exercises you engage in to ground yourself before a performance? Oh, great. These are great questions. The biggest one is I try to stay present. I get myself in a place of just being present right there. I come at it from a place of gratitude and thankfulness. I stay positive. I have positive mental imagery. I think about, wow, I can't wait to see what happens. This show's going to be great. I'm so excited to play. Look who I get to play with today. Like I think those are all ways to hone my craft. I mean, I think thinking to myself, man, if this was the last time I ever got to play with this person or these people, how would I play that show? I think that helps me hone my craft. I think being curious in life in general helps me. I think, simple things like drink enough water, get rest, stand up if you're doing Zoom improv, or in general, just even on stage. I got in a habit where I love sitting on stage, and if I could stand up, I think that would help hone my craft. I think being very generous, taking a moment and saying to myself, what I'm going to do is good enough. I think all of those things, for me personally, before a show, I need to connect with people and joke around. Now, that could just be having a conversation. It's like, how's it going? It could be, silly game of tag. I mean, depending on who I'm performing with, I always like to figure out how they like to warm up. So that's another way before a show. It's like, let's see how this person wants to warm up, and I'm always down with whatever. But I think those are some of the habits I do is I look at this as an opportunity and an opportunity to have fun. I'm like, follow the fun, find the fun, follow the fun. And so, yeah, if you're grateful, if your attitude is positive, if you're looking forward to playing, if you're silly, I need to get myself in a state of being ready for silliness and then being ready for it to go a different way as well. I don't want to force it. I want to remind myself, let the improv come to me. Don't try to force it. Let it come to me. I've got plenty of time, whether it's a 30-second scene or a, hour-long show. Plenty of time right there. So for me, like taking a breath and going, I don't have to rush. I can be patient and I can strike while the opportunity is there. Now, if I'm doing a show with people and it's like right from the beginning, balls to the wall, you're running and gunning real fast, then great, that's the show we're doing. But I just always want to try and stay appreciative and positive before I go into a performance, and then remind myself of all the shows I've done. After a show, I like to say, of all the shows I've done, that was one of them. Or of all the scenes I've done, that was the most recent. And not try to judge it or think about it for much longer than 5 minutes after a show, maybe. So yeah, I think that's a way to do it. And for me, sometimes I have to breathe. I have to take a deep breath. I have to shake my hands out. If I'm really nervous, I'll squeeze my hands real hard. And then I'll shake them like I'm trying to flick water off, and then I'll squeeze them real hard. And sometimes I gotta like, I do have to do things like making sure my mouth is warmed up. So I might do like that, or I might go up. I might do things like that to just get my lips and tongue and teeth ready to go. I might have to stretch a little bit if I've been sitting all day, or if I'm tired, I might do that. So those are a couple things. Tone my craft. Another thing is when you're on stage, are you projecting? Take a piece of paper, put it against your wall, stand about, I don't know, half, let's see, I don't know, maybe this far away from it, and then with just your breath, let go of your hand, and with just your breath, push against that paper. And the longer you can keep it up, the more you're building up your diaphragm. The first thing that's probably going to happen is you're going to push out real hard, but you want to have a steady stream of air to try and keep that paper against the wall. That's a way that I built up my projection. So when I'm on stage, I'm able to project. So when I'm on stage, I want to make sure that I have my voice and I'm ready to go and I can project if I need it. Great. That's a great question. I hope that answers it. Jayant, sometimes I get stuck in the questioning mode. How do you get out of that during the scene? I got a couple suggestions. One is don't. You're in a scene, you're asking questions, cool. Another is provide the answer. So if you want to say, what are you having for dinner? Flip it. Either tell them, oh, looks like you're having steak and potatoes, or, I'm having this for dinner. Because questions are, why teachers make that poor note is don't ask questions, because what they're trying to say is provide information. So questions are fine. Like, are you sure you want to get married is a great question in a scene. So provide information, right? So in your brain, just flip it and be like, I want to ask what that is. So either I'm going to tell them what that is, or I'm going to answer what that is, what it is for me. Instead of asking what they're drinking, I might say, I'm drinking this. Or I might go, hey, let me get you another Miller Lite, right? So you're providing the information there. Ari said, you just made a question, Jayant. See, stuck. Well, you got out of it with the explanation point. Yeah, so I think those are good ways to, get out of the questioning part of it, is just make a statement. Also, who cares? How about that for a bottom line? So you're in a scene where you're asking questions. Great. Who cares? The reason I like to make statements is, if you say, do you want more popcorn? It gives my scene partner a chance to say no, which is their right. But I can just make a statement. What I'm telling them is I want you to have more popcorn. Like, I want you to say yes to more popcorn. So then don't get mad if they don't want the popcorn. But I'm always, amazed when improvisers say no in a scene. I'm like, just keep saying yes. Like, it leads to something really cool. And positive choices lead to more interesting scenes. If you're having a problem with, is it Frozen? It might be Frozen. I don't know. It looks, maybe my scene, maybe I might have to like reboot this right here. I don't know if let's take a look at this. I don't know. It might be Frozen. Let's see. I'm going to put this on. Amazing. All right. Yeah, I think it's on Frozen. I don't know. My internet might be unstable right now. So if it is, just, let me know there. It looks like it's recording on my end, but it might just be unstable. So thanks for sticking around during the technology portion of this, which happens. It's technology it's fickle and it's going to happen. And I also live with in a place where my the internet is being used. Let's just say that the internet is being used a lot, so there's going to be some technology issues. Hey, Mark, when you are not improvising, what do you like to do away from improv? Hobbies, interests? Oh, great. Thanks for asking that, Mark. My kids are very important to me. I have a 7-year-old and 5-year-old, so I like to spend as much time with them as I can. My girlfriend's very important to me, so, we cook. We do little projects around the house, which I'm finding fascinating. I'm trying to fix patches in the tile in our bathroom, which I think is fascinating. I think creating stuff. I think creating stuff is really fun. I think going outside. I love to be outside. So sometimes I'll just take a walk. I've been reading a lot. In fact, I'm reading this book. Hold on. Um, so I'm reading. This is the book I'm reading right now. If you could see that, it is. It's actually written by an improviser. You can see the ring light, but it's called The Bill Walton Mysteries: Fire on the Mountain. And there's a professional basketball player in the States who's now retired and does now announcing about basketball. And his name is Bill Walton, and Dave Pash is his announcing partner. And then my friend who's an improviser, who's a great. I mean, it's an awesome book. He wrote this book where like they solve mysteries. They also are still like announcing basketball games, so I think it's hilarious. So I'm reading a lot. I don't really watch a ton of television, which is great. So I think yeah, things like that where I'm doing something with people I love is huge for me. Thanks for that question, Mark. Stephanie, you play with so many different people. Do you ever feel nervous about seeing chemistry with strangers? How do you constantly play so well with people you're just meeting? Oh, great question. I mean, the only thing I might get nervous about is, are they going to do something inappropriate? But it hasn't happened yet. And so I get, I mean, there are times I get nervous, but I also am very excited about it. Like it's a fine line between nervousness and excitement. So there are times where I'm like, if I were to play with someone like, you know, Amy Sedaris. Like there are a couple of people I'm trying to get to do this with me, and Amy Sedaris or Stephen Colbert or Steve Carell, and more because I watched them when I was a student. Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert were my teachers, so I might be nervous playing with them in a scene, only not because of the level of fame they have, but because they're a teacher I used to watch, and I used to think they're so good. Same with Amy Sedaris. I didn't have her as a teacher, but I used to watch her, and she's just brilliant. So I might get a little nervous with them, but I think it would go away. And I feel like on Zoom I'm less nervous than I am other places because maybe it's because I know we've got 10 minutes, or I know there's not an audience that I might make moves in to reach out to them to get to the audience instead of supporting my partner. So I don't get that nervous anymore playing with people. I relish the opportunity. I relish the opportunity of playing with somebody who people are like, oh, they're bad. I really do. I want to be like, ooh, can I make them look good? It's a challenge for me. And thank you for complimenting me and saying I play so well with people that I'm just meeting. That's great. I think a big thing that will help with that, if people are concerned about that, is drop your idea or your expectations, and whatever they're doing, just keep your focus on them. And when in doubt, be like them. Be 5% more of whatever energy they're bringing. Then there's two of you in that situation. You won't have any conflict or any reason to be nervous or scared. It's one scene, and we all have many scenes inside of us. So that one scene is not going to make or break us. At this point, I expect the scenes to go well. And when you're newer as a performer, you're so nervous of how they're going to turn out. And I think the more you do it, the more you realize, oh, I'm going to do a whole bunch of these scenes in my lifetime. So the nerves to me are more excitement right now. There is that social anxiety of meeting someone you've never met, and doing like turning on the video and going, hey, we've never actually met. Now let's go do a scene. And Stephanie Ray and I never met. Like we knew each other through Facebook, but I reached out and was like, let's do a scene together. And she's like, yeah. And so you and I met like just before we did the scene is the first time we ever talked, and then we went right into it. And if you support each other, if you make each other look good, if you play the height of your intelligence, you don't do anything, that's inappropriate or shocking, then you should be able to play with anybody. And Stephanie also is one of those people. She can play with anybody, and she is, just a powerhouse. I mean, she is just so good at short form and long form. She's just a great improviser. I love playing with Stephanie so much because she, like me, is like, no time to waste. Let's make stuff happen. That doesn't mean like rushed or frenetic. It just means every moment is important. And I love that about playing with her. JJ, do you prefer leading or supporting scenes? I think we're always following. I think we're supporting actors is what I think Jeff Michalski said that, or at least I attribute it to him, or Rosowski, maybe Dave Rosowski. It's like we're all supporting actors, and it might even go back. It's probably honestly a Viola Spolin thing. I think it is. She's a follow the follower, so it's worked well for me now. I think you just you might feel at times you're leading a scene, but like just follow. That's again personally for me, it's easier to follow. Roseanne, what are you most proud of accomplishing as a global ambassador of improv? Oh, Roseanne, thank you. I think, my goal is to have everyone take one improv class and to use improv to spread empathy and positivity and love. And if that's working, I think that's great. I love seeing people, do these scenes with each other, these 10-minute scenes. And I read on Facebook, someone attributed it to me, and it's like, thank you, but doing a 10-minute scene with somebody is not my idea. It's something that I thought would be real fun, but please don't. It's not something that I invented. I also think like I'm really proud about my work with a company called Room to Improv, which was pre-pandemic, but it's something that I cherish a lot, which is using improv to help combat bullying in Chicago public schools and to help seniors stay sharp and military personnel assimilate back into America. And I'm very proud of that work that organization has done. It's just tremendous. I really do get proud. I mean, it makes me feel so good when I see people who didn't know each other decide to come together and play, and maybe it's people that have met in a happy hour I'm teaching or a class I've taught, or maybe they saw somebody play with me in a 10-minute scene and like I want to play with them. So I think that people are now reaching out to people and having the courage and bravery to reach out to somebody they don't know and say, hey, let's play together. I think that's something that's really cool. I also am really proud of the work I'm doing with Roseanne's group, and they're called Perpetual Notion, and we would not have been working together had it not been for the pandemic. And I think they're doing a lot of really great improv virtually, and so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of so much of it, but the fact that people are coming together and supporting, and there's more positive play means a lot to me. So I'm proud that there's a lot more positivity happening. Judy, I like that most new improvisers apologize too much and tell people they aren't good as the other people on stage. Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's the apology wall back there. So we don't need to apologize for improv. You don't know what you're doing, so how can you apologize for it? Yeah, it's like, take that ego, that's your ego, and leave it at the door. Don't apologize. If you make a mistake early on, especially in a scene or a show, an improv piece of some sort, you have a lot of time to make that work and make sense. Play the wrong note again. Don't apologize for playing the wrong note. Play it again and again, and then it becomes a pattern and something that we think happened. That's an example of letting the improv come to you. Play the wrong note again. Heighten, exactly, Judy, heighten. Michael Hammertime, my brother, by the way, everybody, my brother Mike has joined in. First off, faux pas, Michael. Best improver ever? Oh, man. I just don't like that word. I like improviser. Best improviser ever. Man, I mean, it's so subjective, I look at somebody like Dr. Jim McDonnell in comedy sports, and he's the best comedy sports player I ever saw. He's an amazing improviser. I look at somebody like, TJ Jagodowski, who I've known for a long time, and I think he's an amazing improviser. I look at Carell Colbert, Amy Sedaris. I think they were tremendous improvisers. So it's like, what are the criteria for that? I look at somebody like Jamie Moyer, and I go, there's no one more fun to watch, and there's no one more fun I'd like to play with. I mean, those are all people that I'm like, ooh, I think they're amazing. So, I think those are some of the good improvisers. I look at John Hildreth, and I'm like, nobody's better at improv than John Hildreth. Craig Kukowski's amazing. Amy Poehler is one of those people that's like, yeah, she's just magnetic on stage. So it's, what's your criteria? For me, I like watching people have fun and get silly. So Amy Poehler's one of those people. Carell's one of those people. Dave Rosowski is one of those people. Nia Vardalos. I think they're just all very tremendous. I look at it like, what's the best team? I love looking at that. It's like, what's the best team of improvisers? And there are so many great ones. Who would I still get nervous performing for? Yeah, some of those teachers I mentioned, I think they might make me a little nervous. I think I would be excited. I think like playing with somebody like Wayne Brady is like on my bucket list of things to do. I don't think I would be nervous. I would just be so excited to play with him. I think playing like I might get nervous playing with someone like my brother who's not an improviser, not because of what he would do, but because I'd want it to go so well. I think I should perform with my brother. Like he's never done improv, but he's got an improviser mindset. So I might get nervous about improvising honestly with like an animal just because you don't know what they're going to do. I get nervous about improvising with people at a jam because they could be drunk, and I don't feel safe on stage with someone who's drinking or high or any. I mean, what we do is hard enough. So the fact you want to add on this element of like getting drunk is just ridiculous. Stephanie, I was so honored and excited and nervous about our 10 minutes together. Yeah, but literally within seconds, I was like, okay, we're on the same page. This guy gets me. I've never felt so comfortable. Oh, Stephanie, thank you. I've never felt so comfortable playing with someone new so quickly. You make everyone feel that way. It's kind of astounding. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I really appreciate that. I also appreciate you, and I have so much joy playing with you that like when I have a chance to do a show, I'm always reaching out to Stephanie and Michelle Gilliam and David Escobedo. Like I think these people are just such a joy to play with because they're good people. They're really, 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 really good people. And that to me makes the mark of a great improviser. Are you good people? Do I want to hang out with you after the show too? Mark, Jay, you're so, oh, thank you, Mark. Yes. And Mark, thank you so much. That means a lot, what you said. I really appreciate it. Improv changes the world, and we can lead the way right now, and it's needed right now. With everything that's happening in the world, improv can heal as well. I'm working on something with Michelle Gilliam and Rick Halen, which is taking improv and almost like making it like a extreme home makeover, but for people. So we go into cities and towns, and we're going to take a group of people together, and it might be a family that's like on the verge of divorce, or it might be frontline workers or something, and take them through improv exercises, have them do a show, and then that show is for charity, and we raise money for charity, but really it's about helping people become better versions of themselves and more love and support. So that's something I'm really passionate about. So if anybody out there has any connections to a network that wants to produce this or a company that wants to sponsor it, reach out to me, because that's a way that I think we could help change the world. Oh, thank you, Judy. She says all of my students have grown. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, read up on Wikipedia. It helps so much. All men are ignorant, just on different subjects. True that. Judy, once you've done it 10 minutes with me, you've made it as an improviser. Maybe, but I'm up for it. So if you want to do one, reach out to me. Judy, you and I need to do one. But yeah, I think if you have anybody you suggest to work with me, if you have anybody, if you want to do it, if you think, oh, this person is terrible, send them to me. I'll do a scene with anybody. I don't really care. I think it'd be fun to make somebody who everyone thinks is terrible make strong choices and support them. Mark, have you taught any new improvisers who were so nervous that you weren't sure they would perform but confounded expectations when they did? Oh, yeah. There are times where I teach a class and then we go to the student showcase and I'm like, oh, they're so nervous. And they get on stage and they just blossom. And the flip side, I've had somebody in a class where I'm like, everything they do is consistently good, and they get in the show and they tank it. You just don't know what they're capable of. You don't know how nervous people get. You don't know any of that. So yeah, I've taught a lot of nervous improvisers. I think I taught A.D. Bryant at I.O. in Chicago, and she was like in college. She was very nervous and scared, but you could still see it then. It was like, oh, she makes such interesting choices, but she was very quiet and scared. And then she got on stage, and it was just like, bam. My friend Judy Fabjance, who was in high school when she was part of this group I was in called Waka Malaka, her first rehearsal with us, she did not get on stage. She was so nervous. And then she turned out to be this amazing performer, and she co-founded a company called Gayco at Second City, and she's just an amazing, amazing human. So yeah. Roseanne, a few of us were talking about how silly it was to be so anxious before doing 10 minutes with me. The legend, couldn't sleep the night before and asked a friend to do a warm-up. so she wouldn't be nervous. And I know how wonderful and supportive he is. Yeah, I think it's natural for us to get nervous and scared, no matter who you're on stage with. I think it's also natural for us if we're on stage with someone we think is better than us or more experienced to sit back and let them lead. But that's when you play with people who are experienced, they want the new people to bring it and to make choices on stage. That's the fun for us as veterans. So don't forget that. How about a week where you do a suggestion of the day? All 10 minutes of that day would have the same suggestion. Yeah. First guest of the day would choose the number. Oh, I love it, Judy. I think that'd be great. It's we're always going to do the same suggestion. I think I've got to do it. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Emma. I'm fine now. Yeah, it's technology. Um, oh, Jan, good. I'm glad you've got an answer there. Whatever helps, man. Stephanie, speaking of cooking, I love the time the sandwich magically showed up on the cabinet behind me. Yeah, behind me, I turned and there was a sandwich and a cranberry juice that my girlfriend had dropped off. It was great, and nobody saw her, but it just popped up right there. Carla, what improv group books would I recommend? Oh, there's so many good ones. My first one is Buddha Plain and Simple by Steve Hagen. It's not necessarily, it has nothing you think at first to do with improv, but the more you read it, the more you're like, oh, this is the best. I can apply this to improv. The book by Will Hines, I think it's How to Be the Greatest Improviser on Earth, I think is great. Any Viola Spolin book is wonderful. Neva Boyd has a handbook of games, which I think is necessary. I think, Impro by Keith Johnstone, I recommend. I think, Del Close, Kim Johnson, and Sharna wrote a book called, oh, what is that IO book? It is called, it's not art by Truth and Comedy. I think is really good. I think different books help different people. Mick Napier has a great book. TJ and Dave and Pam Victor improvise at the speed of life. It's a great book. Bill Arnett wrote a great book. Rich Baker has a great book as well. So I think, and David Escobedo has written so many great books on improv, including Answers from Improv Teachers, where he just has improv teachers give answers on subjects. So I think those are all really great great books right there. So yeah, I think definitely like those are some that Liz Allen and Jimmy Carrane also wrote a book. So I think those are some of the books that come to the top of my mind. Katie Shute has a book called The Improviser's Way, which is like a workbook, which is tremendous. So I think any of those books are going to be helpful for you. But my first book is Buddhism Plain and Simple. Thank you, Carl. I think that's great. And in the chat, if you have improv books as well you recommend to everybody, please put them there. Part of this is not just like ask me anything, but it's to get advice from people here and what their suggestions are. Advice to people who are hesitant to do improv online. Oh, thanks, Carla. Two things. One is like if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. Like I think I have friends who just don't feel it right now and don't want to do improv online for various reasons. They only want to do it in person because there's so many clues they can get from their partners. They maybe are exhausted from Zoom meetings. That's great. Anybody who is hesitant but wants to do it, I think invite them to do it. Don't put it like online, but just invite them to a Zoom meeting and do it, or have them go to a jam. There's so many great jams all throughout the world right now that have them go to a jam and see if it fits. Tell them like, hey, give it one shot. Volunteer to do a scene with them. Do a game with them. You can. If somebody is hesitant, you can go, oh hey, let's you and me and person X let's just try it, and then invite someone who's super fun to play with. And set up your own like kind of improv connection right there and get people to play. So I think definitely like, having them experience is always better. And then they see either they dig it or they don't. And I haven't met anyone yet who was like, no, I tried it. I'm done. I'm not going to do it anymore. Everyone I met has been like, oh, that's great. I'm going to do it again. Terrier, bitterness in improv. Take a break from it all or step away from what makes you bitter. Ooh, that's a great question. Those are two great options, my friend. Take a break, step away from improv. It will be here when you want to come back. That's what I've done before. It's like early on in my career, I was just burnt out. I was doing, I don't know, 6 or 7 shows a week. I started feeling entitled. I had a bad breakup, a bad relationship. So I'm like, I'm going to step away. And I had no idea if I was going to come back, but it was for me. So you got to take care of yourself first and foremost. Yes, and yourself before you can yes and anyone else. So yes and yourself. Also, if you're in a group that's making you feel bitter, man, life is short. Leave the group. Like, you are good enough to be able to find people to play with you. And now that we can reach out to anyone globally, there are people who will want to play your style. And sometimes it's a style thing and you get bitter about it because they want to do a certain style. It's like, step away from that. Take yourself out of it. That's the only action you can do. You can't change other people. You can just change yourself. So step away and find that joy. And step away from what makes you bitter. Yes, Kathleen, Stephanie Ray is great. She's awesome. I mean, the more you watch her perform, and Michelle Gilliam, and there's so many people that because of this were able to tune in and see, and you're like, oh, I had not heard of that person. I was not aware of that group, and now we can. So it's up to you also to search those people out. If you want to change, add tools to your improv tool belt, or you want to be inspired, start looking for people who inspire you. And I think Michelle and Stephanie and David Escobedo and Katie Shute and Chris Mead, like, all these people inspire me. All the people who are here, honestly, are very inspiring to me. Yeah, we have so many scenes inside of us, Anshu. It's just one scene. It's it. It's one scene, and it's going to be over, and you're going to survive. And what's the fun in that scene? Jamie Moyer is one of my favorite people to play with and watch. And if you ask her, why'd you do that? She just goes, I thought it'd be fun. And that was it. She's just like, I think this will be fun. And it's never at the expense of her scene partner. It's with her scene partner. So do things with each other. Also, another thing that might help when you get nervous, instead of trying to get the laugh, try to give the laugh. That was something, circling back to a question early on, it was very easy for me to do because I was, part of it was my training as an athlete. Probably part of it was I was codependent, is I wanted to give the laugh. I didn't want to get the laugh. I wanted to set people up. And that was something that's been inherent to me ever since I've started this. I love playing with you too, Stephanie. You're so awesome. You're so good. It's so funny. Like, you just don't know what she's going to say. And it's just tremendous. Like, there's so many shows where she comes out and you're like, that's it. That crushed. And the 10 minutes I did with her was awesome. I love that. I also love because of the choices she made, especially at the end. She's one of those people that is all about the support. She never, has joy at the expense of her partner. It's great. Yeah, one improv class should be compulsory, Christina. I agree. A silver lining to the pandemic, Ken says, is the explosion of online improvisation. Yeah, new formats, new events, for sure, new relationships. How do you think this will affect the art once we're all back in our theaters? Well, there's no guarantee we will be back in the theaters. It's like improv, moment to moment. Right now we're not. Another is, I think it's here to stay. And I think it's just what percentage will be live in theaters, what will be virtual, what will be a combination of the two. Imagine what we could do in a theater with combining this, the virtual and the live in front of people. It's just exciting to me. I'm not I'm excited to see what could happen. Yeah, Stephanie, it's like, oh, it's so good. Paul Green, what advice do you have for an improviser who's consistently asking for notes, but people are hesitant to critique his performance? Paul's one of these people that just makes me laugh. And Paul and I have an ongoing bit that we've been doing for years, which is, I'm just like, are you open to notes? And he asked me if I'm open to notes too. And it brings me joy. Paul's also a guy who is, he's a musician as well, but he's also a good improviser. And I think a lot of times when you become an improv like music director, sometimes those people are like kind of pigeonholed and like, well, they just do music improv, but they also are really good at improv. So, Paul's one of those guys that's like just really fun and silly to play with, and a guy that will yes and everything. Suck it up, says Judy. Suck it up. You are correct. He is truly global. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Emma. These are really great, y'all. Yeah, I agree, Ari. There's no sorry in improv. Dave, Dave Colin just writes Dave Colin. Dave's a guy I knew in Chicago, but like peripherally, and then I've I've hung out with him more in LA, and he's just a fun guy. He's a really good improviser. It's super fun. I remember he did. There's a scene he did on a tightrope with Bob Ladowig. Dave, you remember what that was? And Dave had eaten something beforehand, and it was just like watching him try to not leave the stage was just tremendous. Dave also very, very on point with social media and things he stands for in his point of view. So I really appreciate Dave. Mark, yeah, the community isn't the best. It is so wonderful. I love improv community. Oh, Stephanie, yeah, you and Michelle, please do more two-person scenes together because you're both just you're dynamic and you're just so engaging to watch on stage. You're just both so good. You can do short, long form, it doesn't matter. If you lose the joy in improv, go to a intro class, put your ego at the door, go in with new eyes, do a reset, start taking a class from, the intro, and you will find the joy again. Trust me. Bridget, it's been a wonderful thing to get involved for her since the lockdown, thanks to Emma and Liverpool Comedy Improv. Wish I could persuade more of my actor friends to try it just once. They seem to have preconceived ideas that it's not for them, sadly. Well, sure. And I think you can ask them, Bridget, is like, do you want to be a better listener? Do you want to react more to when you're in the moment? Do you want to make stronger choices and stronger emotional choices? Do you want to be more present in your pre-scripted scenes? Do you want to feel emotions more? Like, if that's all things you want to work on, then improv will help you. You don't have to stop acting. You, in fact, use your acting ability in improv scenes, but it helps you stay present, make strong choices. And if you're an auditioning actor, you need improv because the casting director might go, great, can you give me another take? Give me a different energy. And improv helps you learn how to do that very quickly. So and then say like, hey, no judgment, come to one. And some improv classes go, hey, come and watch. Just audit the class. You don't have to participate. You can just come watch it. Kathleen says, shut up. That's a great idea. I'd watch that show. Anshu, oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I still have so much to learn too. And when I teach, I'm lucky because I'm learning from so many more people that are learning from me. I'm learning from all the students in the class. Kathleen Kenny, Stephanie is obsessed with you. But this time in a weird way. I love it. I have a shirt that my friend Gareth and my friend Emma got me when I was in Copenhagen. It says, make weird great again. And I cannot agree more. If I could have one thing about improv, I'd strike the word weird from it because I don't think anything in improv should be weird or we should call it out as weird. So yes, I love things in a weird way. Paul, no, yeah, I'm reading the comments. But yeah, David Escobedo is like the improv ambassador. He's the best. David Escobedo is the best. Oh yes, and Carla. Carla is one of these people that's like, the more you get to know Carla O'Brien Dingle, the more you're like, oh my God, she's really, really talented. She's amazing. She's a great teacher. She's a fantastic performer. I did a 10-minute scene with her and I was crying. I mean, she's that good. And she's over at, she does work with Queen City Improv. And so if you have a chance to take a class with her, take it. You will just find the joy again. She is just all about joy right there. Yeah, David, agree. The best performers we've ever seen, for sure, online or otherwise, right there. Judy, great. Help out a small theater. That's wonderful. If you have a friend who wants to try improv online in a safe environment, CT Improv, SEATEA, is offering a beginner's class for 4 weeks. Starts next Monday. So that's in the chat right there. So you can go and click on that link. I've done work with CT. I was lucky enough to come over and last year and teach a workshop for the folks there, and it's fantastic. It's an amazing community. Give the laugh. Yeah, give the laugh, right? And again, these are not my quotes. Like the things I say, I've stolen, I've curated from other people, but I heard that and I was like, oh yeah, give the laugh. Don't get the laugh. Keith Williams, what a love fest. Oh, Keith, I love you, brother. He is another one of those guys that I did not know before this, and I got a chance to meet him and do a 10-minute scene with him, and he's just great. Another one of these guys. It's just like, oh man, so fun playing with you. Yeah, there's no crying in baseball, right, Judy? There's no sorry in improv. There's no crying in baseball. Do you have any negatives? It's too much. I do. I hate bullies. I hate when people bully other people on stage. I hate when people yell at other people on stage. That gets me really upset. And that's something that I'm like, just stop. Stop yelling at each other. Comedy, you don't have to be loud at each other. Be loud outward. But if you're yelling at your scene partner, make sure you're the fool, not them. Don't make your scene partner the fool. I don't like that. JJ, it's a basement full of Nazi memorabilia. No, man, but I love that. It's like, wouldn't that be interesting? Behind, pull back the curtain. It's like, oh, this person's evil. There is something, that is something I do worry about, which is like, I've gone through a divorce, and sometimes you think like, oh, that's a reflection on me as a person, and I'm a failure. It's like, no, it's just, it's, sometimes people are in different spaces in their life and they grow apart, and the thing that is worse to do is stay together out of the sake of whatever, whether it's comfort or safety or the kids or things like that. And it's hard to look at that and walk away. And that's similar, in a way. It's also like when you break up, when your improv group ends or your improv duo ends, or you're part of a company that you walk away from, or, maybe you founded a theater and then it's time to hand the reins over. Maybe it's not even a negative thing, but you're just like, you're like, it's time to move on. So like, there is an element of loss that can happen. And so how do you deal with that and turn it into a positive moving forward? And I think part of it is time heals that. And for me, part of it is trying to look at it from a place of gratitude and saying, well, I have two amazing kids and they are just tremendous. And, so that relationship I had was just, I'm very thankful for it. I'm very thankful every day for it. And, it's sad that it's ended, but in a way it's like it's time for a new chapter. And so, I think the same thing, can occur with a group you're in where you're like, they want to do a Herald. I don't want to do a Herald. Maybe it's time for me to step away. It's not a judgment on anyone. It's just the timing might be right. So you have to look at timing as well and say, the timing for me is right. So if you feel you're stuck in improv, you can step away and come back for sure. Don't feel like you have to stay into it out of a sense of loyalty or trying to make something work. It's better to take yourself away than to start getting more exasperated or starting to get more, like you feel like you're owed something. Just step away. Came here for improv wisdom, leaving with life wisdom. Yeah, isn't improv life? And too many times as improvisers, we place our value of ourselves on a theater, on a group, on what a teacher tells us, all of that stuff, on applause, on laughter. And at the end of the day, you don't have any of that stuff. At the end of the day, you've got yourself. And are you doing something every day that feeds you and that yes ands you and that feeds your creative spirit? And sometimes I remember a therapist once told me, everything toxic in my life has my claw marks on it. And I thought that was a great analogy. It's like this toxic thing, I'm just trying to hold on to it for as long as I can, when the universe is telling me it's time for you to move on and you're going to be okay and you're going to be protected. I remember once I had shows back to back, sketch shows. And one sketch show, I was trying to prove myself. I was trying to be accepted into a group, and I was trying to further my career and things like that. Another group was like, it was a fun show. I had a blast doing it. I went from one to the other, and I was at this second show afterwards, and I'm on the sidewalk. After the show, I'm talking to these friends of mine who I've known for years, and they're laughing, and we're laughing. And it struck me at that point, it's like, these are my people. I can't continue to chase something that doesn't want me, nor should they want me. They do not have to give me anything. I'm not entitled to anything. I was at a theater in Chicago where on the wall it said, we want to celebrate these performers who have been with us for the past 25 years. And my name wasn't on the wall. And I'm like, I'm going to get my name on the wall. And it was a miserable experience. That theater was not my style. They didn't want me there. And I had been at a point where I was one of the decision makers. And Will Hines and Chris Gether talk about this with UCB, and this was my, this was my experience at IO. Is like I still never felt like I was a part of the in crowd, and I was the in crowd. I was head of the artistic committee, and I was teaching, and I was, on weekend house teams, and I still didn't feel like I was a part of something there. It was always a sense of fear. And the sooner that I could take myself out of that, the more I blossomed and grew. Once I was removed from their schedule and as a teacher and performer, which I was like, oh, I'm one of the 330 people. I'm not one of the top 330 improvisers in your building. Not talking city, I'm talking in your building. Okay. And then once that happened, I laughed, and then I found another theater, and I went there, and it just turned my joy around, and it brought it back to me. So I'm that theater, any of the theaters I've worked for, they don't owe me anything. And I am not promised anything. And I just have to now enjoy every second of every moment I'm anywhere. So I have a luxury of being able to choose who I want to perform with, but so does everyone else. You have a luxury of choosing who you want to perform with. So reach out to those people who bring you joy. And surround yourself with those people. Judy says, "Let us know when your book comes out. I would buy that one." It's funny. I'm in the middle of writing a book, and who knows how long it's going to take. But I got a title right now. It's tentatively titled "52 Ripples," and it's like small changes you can make every day from things I've learned in improv. And it's like you can do this if you do it once a week. After a year, you've kind of have a tool belt now of things you can do. That title might change, but right now that's what it's called right there is 52 Ripples. So and great, yeah, Keith, lessons learned from improv is my mission statement. Me too, man. Stephanie, I wish I could take Jay Sugo's attitude, put it in a bottle, and spray it in every room I ever walk into. See, she's so funny. She's fucking hilarious. And she just, like, I love watching her play, and I love playing with her. Great. So those, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I'm going to do these once a week. And so if you have other questions or anything like that, reach out to me. But yeah, this has been really great. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever you're watching this. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Do something to yes and yourself today. And you know what else? Follow the fear. Follow the fear. Follow your fear. It will set you free. Wonderful. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Mwah. Bye-bye.